All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Levinsky, owner race director of Sasquatch Trail Running. Tonight, we've got our webinar with Minnewaska State Park. We've got environmental educator Becca Howe Paricio is going to be leading the session. And most of you on here are signed up for our Squatchy Waska Mountain Fest trail party that's happening on April 26th. We've never had an event sell out as fast as this race, so that was really exciting to see just the stoke from everybody. I shared some pictures and videos, and people got really jazzed about Minnewaska. I've written in our race description that this event was inspired by the Ellenville Mountain Fest that used to take place several years ago, led by Ken Posner and Todd Jennings of Run Wild Incorporated. So they had the event for a few years and then fizzled out a little bit. And I approached them and asked if I'd have their blessing to resurrect the event and put a little squatchy twist on it. So the course is pretty similar. There's a couple differences. We keep you off of the road and you're on trail the entire time. So when I did the long path through run, the FKT 2 years ago, this section through Minnewaska, out of all 360 miles, was the most beautiful, hands down. It was incredible. I lucked out to go through the long path section of Minnewaska right at sunset. So it was just gorgeous up at High Point. Really one of my favorite trail memories of all time. So it's been a dream to host this event, and we're just delighted that the park was really enthusiastic, and they've been wonderful to work with. And Becca was super jazzed to get on the webinar. So it's really important to us that, all of our events, yes, but especially Minnewaska is such a special place and has such a fragile ecosystem. We really want everybody to totally grasp that and understand that going into this event. So we're going to pass it off to Becca. She's going to lead the rest of the session, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So if you want along the way, you can post your comments. I'll keep track of them until the end. But Becca, thank you so much for coming on tonight for the webinar.
You're very welcome. Hi, everyone. Like Kim said, my name is Becca. I'm the environmental educator here. I'm at the Sam's Point Visitor Center currently. So that's where I am. And so we're going to start my PowerPoint slide here, and we'll talk about all the fun things up here at Minnewaska.
Awesome. All right, we're going to switch to your screen here.
Okay, so you want to run a race at a park preserve. Minnewaska is very special, and it's different than just a regular park, and that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about today. We are a park preserve. So we're going to have our overview of topics. What is the park preserve? Race map. What is the route? The ecological communities we have within the park preserve. Who lives here? Cultural history, and then some fun facts. And then we'll do questions after. So what is a park preserve? Park preserve is actually a legal status in the New York State Constitution under Article 20. I'm not going to read through all 9 of these points because they are very long, but I have it summed up here. So we have to have 15% or less of the park preserve developed. That means trails, carriage roads, visitor center facilities, beaches, like developed area. So less than 15 developed, and the rest of it has to be untouched. So then we have environmental education, scientific studies, and historic preservation are a requirement. It must be factored into management plans. So part of the park preserve is we have to have a stewardship team, and we have to have environmental education here. Park preserves must have large uninterrupted habitats, which I will show you examples of on the map. We have a bunch of them. What else? We have all recreation must be passive. That means we cannot build infrastructure for recreation. We can't build a swimming pool, but if we have a lake, we swim in the lake. We can have a beach at the lake. So passive, like hiking, biking, running, no high ropes courses, no playgrounds kind of thing. And then our admission system has to be non-discriminatory, and should be implemented for individuals and groups to prevent overuse and the abuse of land. Sam's Point actually has the only parking reservation system in the New York State Parks system. There are some for other DEC lands, but for the park system, we're the only one, and that is because we were getting overused and abused. So we have implemented that where we needed to. Okay, so let's move on to maps. Who doesn't love maps? So Minnewaska State Park Preserve is just under 24,000 acres, with land being added all of the time as we can acquire it. Minnewaska has 4 sky lakes, and I have my cursor here. So a sky lake is a high altitude lake that are carved out by glaciers. So there's 5 in the Gunks, and Minnewaska has 4 within it. So from south to north, we have Lake Maritanza, Mud Pond, Lake Owasting, and Lake Minnewaska. And when I was talking about uninterrupted habitats and lands, I'm talking about the spots where there are no trails. So we have nice big open swaths. And Minnewaska is the largest park preserve in the New York State Parks system. And we're the 3rd largest park. I believe we're the 3rd largest park. So that is our park as a whole. And then we're going to zoom in to the race route. So I have it all marked out here. And we've got Berm Road Park. Berm Road Park is where you're going to start and finish your race. Ooh, it's a little bit lag when I look over on the other screen. That's actually a town of Warsing Park that abuts up against Minnewaska. So we have Smiley Carriage Road here, Berry Picker, High Point Footpath. We have Verketerkill Falls Footpath to Ice Caves Road, briefly on Ice Caves Road to High Point Carriage Road, and then High Point Carriage Road back. And High Point Carriage Road just opened up. It was completely redone. It is beautiful. Some of my favorite parts and then the entire park preserve are right in here. And Berry Picker is my favorite trail. So you guys are going to be in the prettiest part of the entire park preserve, in my personal opinion. We also have 2 long distance paths that you will be on. So you're not just going to be on the long path, which is amazing, running from New York City, the George Washington Bridge, all the way up to the Northville Placid Trailhead in Northville, which is just in the blue line of the Adirondack Park. So from New York City to the Adirondacks, you're going to be on this beautiful section of the long path. And the Shawangunk Ridge Trail is a shorter long distance trail, but still one of our long distance trails, running from High Point, New Jersey to Mohonk Preserve, Mohonk Mountain House property. So kind of on the border of that. If anyone knows where Bonnecue Crag is, it kind of ends pretty much there. And so I have my colors backwards on my map. I've looked at this map so many times. I'm so sorry, guys. If you notice, I have the 10 is marked out as the wrong color. Okay, that's fun. You'll be passing the Verketerkill Falls on the 25K route. Another fun fact, Verketerkill is 187 feet tall, which makes it taller than the American side of Niagara Falls. So it's not a big waterfall, but it's a tall waterfall. So that's just another little fun fact about Verketerkill Falls. So then we have our ecological communities, and that's what we really want to talk about today. That and our cultural history, the 2 reasons our park is preserved. So this is a map of our broader ecological communities here. There are 33 listed on this map. But of that 33, we're going to zoom into the race area. And so I've picked out 3 we're going to highlight today. So again, that race map for the 10 mile is Smiley to Berry Picker and back. And then we have Smiley, Berry Picker, High Point, Verketerkill this way and back. So I've picked out the Dwarf Pitch Pine Ridge in this dark red. Then we have the Pitch Pine Oak Heath Rocky Summit. That's a mouthful, so please forgive me if I mess that one up a couple times. So we have this over here, which run through over here. And then we have our Chestnut Oak Forest is this color over here. Okay. So then let's talk about those ecological communities. This photo is on High Point Footpath. And it is early May because that's sheep laurel in bloom right there. So that's High Point. So first is our dwarf pitch pine ridge. That has a state conservation rank of an S1, which means it is statewide. It's rare and it's in danger of being extinct. And same for the G1, G2 for this global conservation status. It is extremely rare and a threat of going extinct because our dwarf pitch pine ridge here at Sam's Point is the only one in the world at a high altitude. So that is me in the photo out there. This was taken in September. I don't know when all of my photos were taken, but I know a couple of them. So this one was September. I had somebody take that because I wanted to use it as an example of a dwarf pitch pine ridge one day, and I got to do that. So dwarf pitch pine is less than 16 feet tall, and it's found with a host of other species that I have listed here: the low bush blueberry, sheep laurel, wintergreen, black chokeberry, sweet fern, and scrub oak. But those are also not tall plants, so this is not a tall forest. And in the area of Verkeeterkill Falls and High Point Footpath, we did have a wildfire in 2016. So a lot of it is burnt and very wide open. So make sure you wear sunscreen. And then our next one is our Pitch Pine Oak Rocky Heath Summit. It is an S3, S4, and a G4. So it is more secure globally, but in peril and it could become extinct. So it is protected. This one is taken right off of Smiley Carriage Road. And so that is the village of Ellenville, where Burn Road Park is, in the distance there. And this one requires wildland fire to stay healthy. This was where one of our wildfires, the 2022 Schwangunk Ridge Fire Complex, which was on Smiley Carriage Road, you will pass that also, was. So that one requires fire to be healthy, and it has a very oak and pitch pine dominated species list. And then we have our chestnut oak forest. This is taken right at the visitor center. So we have our nice, tall, deep soil oak trees as well as red maples. And that's S4G5, and that is a very secure, very common forest type. But it's home to a lot of animals and plants that are maybe not as rare. And the chestnut oak, red oak, and red maple have come into dominance in this forest type because of the American chestnut blight and the near extinction of the American chestnut, which you can find here within the park preserve. There are a few left. So that one was a good replacement for that. And the chestnut blight took over and it damaged the American chestnuts in 1904, and we have not recovered since. You can see Sam's Point peeking out of the photo right here. Okay, so we're going to move on to who lives in these communities. So this is a smooth green snake, and we'll see a few more friends. So if anyone doesn't like snakes, I've got some coming up, just a heads up. So these are some of the animals. We have to remember all these animals, insects, snakes, plants. This is their home. This is where they live. So we want to keep them here. We want that biodiversity. So we have black bears, bobcats, porcupines, beavers, white-tailed deer, leopard frogs. We have so many more, but these are the ones that let us take their picture. And that bobcat and the black bear photo, those are game cameras that no humans were there to take that photo. That was just them walking through the woods in a very natural state. Then we have our insects. I'll let you guys read the screen here. We have all of these. I do want to point out the Northern Barrens tiger beetle. Sam's Point, specifically some of the trails you will be on today when you race, is the only place in the state where this beetle is found. They thought they were extirpated from the state, and they refound them in 2004. And we do surveys to see if they're still here in the park, and we have been successful every year. But this is the only place in the entire state where they live. And snakes, we have plenty of snakes here. We do have timber rattlesnakes, but the race it's in April, so the chances of seeing a snake are low, but not zero. Um, I am always on the lookout for snakes. I actually saw a garter snake today. It was my first snake of the year. So now we're going to move on to cultural history, and I have prepared a fun timeline. So some of these dates you'll see they don't have some of the things on my timeline don't have dates because they're very vague and there's not as many records. But I would like to start with that the Lenape lived on the land here. They are our indigenous tribe. And we have collected bog cores with showing a human started fire regime or fire ecology, human caused fire ecology for almost 9,000 years. So we know people have been here for a very long time, and we know they've been burning the mountain for a very long time. And our plants here are adapted to fire. That pitch pine is a fire adapted species, as is the blueberry and huckleberry. So then we'll move on to the berry pickers. We have a group of people called the berry pickers. If you've ever been to the Sam's Point Visitor Center, we have a short movie on it. And Mark Freed has a book about the huckleberry pickers. So they would come and pick blueberries and huckleberries because these blueberries and huckleberries were not commercially available. You could not go to a grocery store and buy them. You couldn't go to a farm and buy them. It wasn't until later, and we'll talk about that on the timeline, when berries were cultivated. So berry pickers started showing up here to pick the berries to sell them in the late 1700s. And then for Sam's Point in 1858, Thomas Botsford purchased the land at Sam's Point and builds the structures, including a hotel. We have Thomas Botsford's caretaker house or historic gatehouse still standing next to the visitor center. It's the oldest structure in Cragsmoor, but the hotel burnt down shortly after. You can see that on the timeline here. His son does build another hotel up at Lake Maritanza later in this, but I couldn't fit everything in there. So then we have Alfred Smiley buys Coxing Pond, which is now Lake Minnewaska, and of the Smileys of Mohonk, they moved to Minnewaska, and they opened their first whole. They opened their first hotel at Lake Minnewaska in 1879. So give me a second. I have to turn the radio off. We'll just have a break for the radio to be over. The park is still an active park, even when it's closed.
The boyfriend is there?
Okay, let me go turn that off because it seems like it might take a while. My apologies, that's not something I accounted for. Okay. It is. Yes, and it's not. There were two hotels at Sam's Point and two hotels at Minnewaska. So thank you. That is exactly where I left off. So Alfred Smiley opens his first hotel in 1979 after Thomas Botsford already had a hotel and it burnt down over here. And we're roughly 10 miles away, 8 to 10, depending on if a crow flies from one to the other. So he opened the first hotel at Minnewaska, one of two, and they stood for 99 years each. So the first hotel burnt down in 1978, but we'll get there in the timeline. And so for the hotels, Smiley Carriage Road was built. It was built in 1900 and opened up in 1901 to bring patrons of the Minnewaska hotels to Minnewaska via either the canal or the railroad, whatever one was um, the most operational. I think both of them were in operation around that point. So it was built for that purpose, but it was not popular after 1901 because it's a very long ride to Minnewaska from Berm Road Park, what is now Berm Road Park. So what came into place in after 1901 was these berry picker camps. And there was a 2-mile camp, a 3-mile camp, a 4-mile camp, and a 5-mile camp. And 4-mile camp is where berry picker footpath comes in to Smiley Carriage Road. And you will see a bunch of berry picker artifacts as you run up Smiley Carriage Road, because this was kind of just a mountain people existed on, picking berries seasonally in the summertime from the 1750s through the 1940s when it started to fizzle out. So there'd be anyone and everyone. Families would live up there for two months picking berries. So that is what happened in this timeline right here, this time gap. So the berry picker started fizzling out because berries started to be cultivated and farmed. So you could go to a grocery store and buy non-wild blueberries. Everything up until like the 1940s, all the blueberries that were consumed were all wild blueberries, which is crazy to think about, but also beautiful. And then in 1968, Ice Caves Mountain opens at Sam's Point. And then in 1970, the land around Lake Owasting is purchased to make Owasting State Park. So before Minnewaska existed, it was Owasting State Park. And then after a long litigious battle, Lake Minnewaska was purchased and combined with Owasting State Park to create Minnewaska State Park. So both hotels had burnt at this point, and the land was in fear of being developed by other major hotels at the time. They purchased it and it became Minnewaska State Park. And then in 1993, so just a couple of years later, we became a state park preserve. We got our Article 20 legal status there. And then in 1998, Sam's Point was purchased to be protected forever by the Open Space Institute. And then they owned the property, and then the Nature Conservancy came in and ran Sam's Point and opened the visitor center here, the one I'm in right now, in 2004, 2005. And then Sam's Point is annexed onto Minnewaska State Park Preserve in 2015. We just on Tuesday celebrated our 10 years of being part of Minnewaska. So that brings us up to now. So that's our timeline of that we're working with the area you guys will be in. So I have some photos and some old postcards just to show you these things that existed. So this picture, if you can see my arrow there, that's Thomas Botsford. That's the guy who built this hotel. This is Sam's Point. So he built this hotel, and that is a picture taken by his son, LeGrand Botsford. LeGrand opened this hotel at Lake Maritanza, which you will be running by in the 25K. And then I have some berry pickers here. There were different berry picker camps. The family camps, the ones with the family basis, were more towards Sam's Point, more closer to where our visitor center is now. The camps with more individual people and what were the partier camps were more on Smiley Carriage Road. But this is an example of a berry picker camp because they lived there for less than 2 months out of the year. And then this is a picture of Sam's Point because cars used to be allowed to drive around. And then so that is the point after the hotel had burnt. More photos. This is the oldest structure in Cragsmore. Like I had mentioned earlier, that's our historic gatehouse. This is a berry picker cabin we have still standing. Sam's Point in the late 60s, early 70s. Ice Caves Mountain Visitor Center. And then this is the entrance to Lake Maritanza, Sam's Point, from the 20s or 40s. That was a photo that was donated. And then this is a postcard of Repeater Hill Falls. Yeah. Yes, yes. We have the Lenape staircase was refinished this past couple 2022, and the back door of the staircase or the back door of the hotel was originally like where the staircase went up. Like they built that staircase for the hotel originally. And it's yeah, yeah. There are also more photos if you look, especially the Grand Botsford took a bunch of silver plate photos. They're on the Cragsmore Library website, and they've got a really great art page on their website. I totally think you should go visit it because it's wonderful. And some of these pictures, like the picture of Thomas Botsford, I borrowed it from the library website. Um, So yeah, those are some photos, and then I have some fun facts. This is a plaque commemorating 4 Mile Post, which is right near Berry Picker footpath. And it reads, the 4 Mile Post entering of the lost community of the Huckleberry Pickers. You are not forgotten, early 1900s. So there are a lot of fun things you're going to run past. I don't really want to spoil it, but if you want to ask, I will tell you. But I will tell you there's a bunch of pots and pans hanging at the entrance of this footpath. But there's other fun things you'll pass. Just so we can keep on our theme here, we have a confirmed Bigfoot sighting at Sam's Point from 1985 from the winter. Two women saw what they believe to be Bigfoot. It's a Class A sighting, so that means it's like a high ranking sighting. This is the official Bigfoot organization. So just Bigfoot's here, he exists. And then I'm going to leave us on this Jane Goodall quote that I found because I love her, and yesterday was her birthday. So I would like Bigfoot to exist. I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot. I think the interesting thing is every single continent there is an equivalent of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. There's a Yeti, the Yowie in Australia, the Chinese wild man, and and on and on and on. I've heard some stories from people who have to believe them. So there's something. I don't know what it is. So Jane Goodall believes Bigfoot exists, Sasquatch exists. So now, and I have some resources here, so I can share those. I can share those with you, Kim, if you want to share them with other people. Just some of the things that I linked here. I have the New York Natural Heritage Guides for all of the forest types we have. OSI has a really nice story map of saving the Gunks. This Shawangunk Ridge Greenway Corridor is a story map done by the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, who's the one who is one of our partners that helps. They help us maintain the footpaths. We have a lot of dedicated volunteers that keep those footpaths clean and clear, and they're currently working on them to get them in shape for you guys to run through them. This is the long path information on the New York, New Jersey website, lakeminnewaska.org. It's a little defunct, but it's a really fun website. And then we have this crazy website I found called NY Ski Blog. And it's just smiley. It's about like smiley carriage road and like somebody's adventure. And I found some good information on it. And then just our park websites. So yeah. Any questions?
Cool. All right. If you've got a question, you can comment wherever you're watching this: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and I can see them pass them on to Becca. Becca, I will ask a question. I know the answer to this, but I think it'd be helpful to chat about it real quick. I know you said that likelihood of seeing a snake is low, but can you walk us through? Say you're out on the trail and you see a snake. What should you do?
So what you shouldn't do is panic and hit it with anything. Because again, this is their home, and rattlesnakes are a threatened species. So you should give it time and space and let it pass, let it do its thing. If you can go around it, go ahead, but like it should pass. It'll rattle at you. They'll let you know. That's pretty much it. It's
Perfect.
just give it space, give it time.
Yeah. How about, we always give a wildlife briefing. A lot of the parks that we use in northern New Jersey, it's common to see black bears, and in New York State as well. Do you want to walk us through what to do with a bear encounter?
Yes. So bears, if you see a bear and it just, you don't want to get between a mom and her cubs, because that's the only time a black bear is really the most threatened. It doesn't want anything to do with you. You just make a lot of noise, yell at it. Just don't throw anything at it because that's not nice. You don't want anything thrown at you. Um, just yell, get yourself to be real big. Hey bear, hey bear, just yell. Don't play music out loud. That doesn't really deter them, and that's one of our park rules. So just yell at it. Hey bear, hey bear. Talk to yourself out loud. Sing. Those are all good things to do. Bobcats, I've never seen a bobcat. It is on my bucket list. Bobcats, you will not see them. They will see you. You will not see them. They don't want anything to do with you. They are not mountain lions. They are like double the size of your house cat, maybe a big Maine Coon, but not that big. The peregrine falcons be nesting. That's a great question. We don't have, well, the spots where you're going to be racing are not big peregrine falcon nesting areas. They're not really high up cliff lines. We're talking cliff lines that they would want would be, you're thinking of cliffs more like Sam's Point or the West Traps at Mohonk Preserve, or even some of the cliff lines at the main entrance of Minnewaska, with big like exposed high cliff lines. That's not the area of the park you're going to be in.
Awesome. And then
But you could see some really cool birds. Really cool birds.
Yes. I think you just touched on this with the bear or bobcat.
Yes.
I saw a bobcat, but it was
did.
in New Jersey, which is really surprising. I was at a park that's very busy, Pyramid Mountain. I came around the corner and I saw what looked like a cat, but when it turned, it had, the cropped tail. I thought, oh my God. But as soon as it saw me, it was gone. It took off.
That is a lucky sighting. I have never seen one.
Yeah, never it was seen beautiful.
One. I know people have seen them closer to like the Minnewaska entrance, but they're so elusive. So
yeah. Becca, would you mind chatting about? I don't think it's not going to give it away because we have it in our race description, but some of the highlights of the course. I'm thinking maybe if you could talk about the views, like what are you looking at when you get to High Point? Because it is a 360. I think that'd be cool to touch on.
So one thing I left out, and I'm sorry, I regret leaving this out. It kind of like dawned on me today, is that there used to be a fire tower where Berry Picker and High Point Footpath come together. And so at that point, that was the main fire tower lookout for like the lower Catskills. So you can see all of the lower Catskills. You can see the Rondout Reservoir. You can see Honk Lake, which is in Napanock, I believe. And you can, the lower Catskills at High Point, and then when you come around on High Point Footpath, you can see Gertrude's Nose, Lake Owasting. You can see that whole like eastern side, like cliff line over there, which is really pretty. And then when you're on Verketerkill Falls, you can see the Hudson Highlands. You can see where Anthony's Nose and Breakneck kind of come together, where the Hudson goes through them on a clear day. Has to be clear, but you can just see that whole like Hudson Valley over there to the east and the Rondout Valley to the west. It is beautiful. And then, you can also, at High Point, you can see High Point, New Jersey, I believe, on a clear day.
That's pretty amazing. I've been to High Point several times, and it's the same. It's the opposite. So on a very clear day, you can see out to Minnewaska, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You can also, from the westerly view, you can sometimes see Pennsylvania. It's a very thin little blue mountainous line in the distance.
That is awesome. Something I discovered last year from a friend is an app called Peak Visor. Beck, have you heard of that?
Yes. Yeah, I have heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. And I'm telling you, like, it costs, I think it's like $70 for the lifetime premium or whatever. But basically you hold up your phone and it's alive. It's taking in your surroundings, and then it shows you what the names of the mountains are and the peaks are. So that's like High Point to use the Peak Finder app is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I did that at Sam's Point with one of my interns from last year. We like meticulously looked at every single thing. Yeah, that was really fun. It's a really cool app.
That is awesome. I do want to. We've got another question, but first, because we're talking about views, Berkshire Falls. So I know I've talked to a bunch of people who have gone and previewed the course, and
Mhm.
they ran. They stayed on the trail and they ran right over the waterfall, and they didn't get a good view of it. Do you want to chat about the views at the falls?
Yes. So the views from the falls, it's a top view only, and you have to go slightly off trail to see it. Like I said, it is 187 feet tall, but it's not a cascading waterfall like you think it is. Um, it is, sorry, my phone's ringing for some reason. It is kind of like a trickle going, like flowing down. And it is a stream on top. There's no like formalized stream crossing because it's still on private property. So there's nothing like formalized there. And it's just like this like small cascading stream down. And you do have to go off trail for it. And it's really tall. And the plunge pool is really pretty. And it's very far down. And it's like, you can totally see all the conglomerate. It is awesome.
It's spectacular. It's truly
Yeah.
one of the gems of New York State for sure.
Yeah. It is. It is. Tallest waterfall in the park preserve.
Yes.
And yeah.
All right, here's our
So
question from Michael. When is berry picker season and can they be picked? Great question.
great question. So berries are blueberries and huckleberries, and that season is like mid-July through mid-August. They fizzle out depending on how hot it is and how much rain we get. Is like when in August they fizzle, and so that is, and they can be picked. We let people pick a quart a day because it's part of our cultural history. So a quart, like a yogurt container.
Do you have a lot of people who come out to pick berries? Yeah,
We do. We do.
it's cool. I have another question. I love to ask park employees what their favorite spot in the park is. So I'm curious if you've got a top spot, or you could pick a couple if you need to. But
I'm gonna have to pick a couple.
yeah,
So my favorite trail is Berry Picker.
okay.
So that's one that's on the course race. My second favorite trail is Millbrook Mountain Footpath.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's rugged.
It is. But my favorite spot is that old fire tower area that I was telling you about. Because it is just a crazy view.
Yeah, and you can still see, right? I'm thinking of the same spot. You can see remnants of the fire tower. Is that right?
Yep,
Yeah,
you can see parts of the base. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Becca, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to add that you didn't say, or do you think we covered
Um,
just about everything?
I think we covered most of it. If you have any questions, I'm here at the visitor center 5 days a week. You can give me a call. You could send me an email. All good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you guys, if you have not been to Sam's Point, it's a really cool. I think you guys just renovated it, right? It's pretty new. It's on the newer side inside.
Um, Not really.
Oh,
It's
it's
just
really
kind of
new.
new to the park system. It's
Okay.
a 15-year-old building.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every time I go in there, I'm
Maybe.
like, man, this is beautiful. Like you've got some really cool displays uh,
Yes.
that you can
Yeah,
walk
we changed the display seasonally. We have an art gallery, so if we have any
through.
artists and you want to have a show, we have a gallery here. We also have a great events page that you can check out to see what events we have coming up. And yeah, that's what I got.
Awesome. Okay, looks like we do have one more question. Let's throw this out there. Kimberly wants to know how many aid stations. So, for the 10 mile, you're going to come to the first aid station twice. So, on your way out and then also on your way back. And the 25K will have an additional aid station just past the lake. And I'm going to put this in pre-race announcement, but I'll say it here because I have the opportunity. It is so awesome. The park is working with us, and they're going to help transport the aid station supplies out to those locations because they're not particularly easily accessible. I mean, the one by the lake it's a shorter hike, not as rugged, but it's amazing, especially that first aid station over by Berry Picker Trail is the Berry Trail. That would be a long, it's, right up from Berm Road Park, over 3 miles, hiking everything in. So we are very appreciative of you guys who are going to be helping us out.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess we got another question here. Here we go. We got John Hill wants to know, what will the parking situation be like for race day? Great question. We are hosting at Berm Road Park. They recently kind of renovated that park area.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That was in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And then plenty of parking to support our 150 people. So throughout the park, there's plenty of parking. I mean,
it's a beautiful town park.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a great covered pavilion that we'll be staging at. We're bringing in, I think there's a couple of porta johns, but we're bringing in some additional toilets because you can never have enough porta johns at a trail race. So, okay, I think that is it. Let's wrap it up. Becca, thank you again so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Nice chatting with everyone.
This was great. All right, so we are so stoked for this race. It's coming up. It's coming in hot. It's wild that it's already April 3rd. So we will see you guys out there April 26th. You can expect a lot more communication from us in the weeks leading up to the race. Okay, Becca, thank you again. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, everyone, keep it squatchy.